I still remember having this really long and boring conversation with an old Asian uncle who insisted that having a television at home is going to make me stupid. Why? Because apparently a television would emit radioactive waves that is toxic to the brain development, and that the brain development stage only ends at the age of 25. That's horrible news. I went to my parents. Why would you even buy a television at home? My oven, the fridge, and everything. Why is it here? It's gonna make me stupid. I'm not gonna want this for the rest of my life. And to my surprise, this man only has 3 electronic devices at home. Number 1, a fridge. Number 2, a rice cooker. And number 3, a landline. I mean, I guess he's pretty consistent to what he's saying, right? But speaking of which, that's also the reason why me and a few friends launched this CAST program of educating some of the elderlies about the importance of lifelong learning, the importance of understanding things such as science, literature, cultures, etc., or even languages, to help them expand their knowledge about the world and let them be more curious to preserve their curiosity for the world. Now, that's just a joke, actually. I could tell from personal experience that listening to someone speak gradually louder and louder and eventually spitting saliva onto your face is not a good experience at all. If you've ever spoken to old Asian uncles, you'll definitely get what I mean. Speaking of brain development, though, summarizing from some of my neuroanatomy classes, some of the classes on nervous system, on anatomy, I've put all my notes into one page. A human brain, a normal human brain, or an average brain can be summarized into this. If you've played this game before, it's called Doodle Jump, and it's about how this green little figure, Mr. Doodle, would just jump around different stages, and to win, you have to get up instead of falling in the middle of the tracks. An average brain can be summarized into this. Why is that the case? Because we oftentimes, when we're thinking of something, when we're trying to communicate our ideas over, we kind of just jump around different ideas. That's pretty normal, because none of us are born being trained to speak logically, with logical coherency, with full understanding, and makes our speech easily delivered and easily understandable by others. It's completely normal, I'm just saying. But what debate actually does to you is that it transforms all of these random ideas that you're jumping around and maybe constantly falling in between or going back to the points that you've already made into something more of a systematic and logical flow that is not only smooth, but also easily understood by anyone and everyone. What I mean is this. When I show you that thoughts can actually be presented in a ladder, not only is it systematic, such as explaining different steps to a mechanism, such as labeling the number of things that you're trying to say, or even trying to explain your thoughts into different layers of analysis, layers of explanation, etc. Bonus points if you're in a suit as well. Just imagine what kind of quality conversations can we have when both sides are able to fully engage with each other instead of being scared of all the logic, all the things that this random old Asian uncle is making up with his year 8 science with one word, electromagnetic radiation. Who wants to be in a conversation like this? But when both sides are able to, first of all, explain and present things in a logical manner and coherently, in a coherent manner, and the receiving side can also understand it in such a systematic way and also respond to it without being feared of being judged on, with another set of logic, that's when both sides are actually able to fully engage and fully comprehend with each other, and that's where the nuance of communication lies. So, as you might have probably heard in the past, debating is something pretty stressful. Let me explain it to you. In 15 minutes, that's all you get for preparation time. It's not like giving a TED Talk today where we get like months and months of preparation and writing down your entire speech before I come here and then maybe recite it, ask people for their feedback before starting. And within 15 minutes of prep time, you don't even get to research, by the way. It's entirely based on your existing understanding, everything that you have to retrieve in a short amount of time. And it's because of this stress, the amount of stress that you're putting yourself in. It also trains you for stress endurance. Why is that important? Because in life, it's not always the case when we have a model answer, a thing that we have to stick with in order to do something so-called right or a better decision. It's entirely up to us of what critical thinking means to us, of what making a better decision for us or weighing something in terms of importance, in terms of moral righteousness, in terms of utilitarianism. It is exactly what debate prepares you for, especially when you can't choose the fights that you're facing in life. Because of all these transformative powers, including pushing yourself to read up, pushing yourself to understand the wider parts of the world, whether different parts of the world, people from different parts of the world, or religious backgrounds, or communities would think in a different way than yourself, understanding these differences and respecting these differences and becoming inclusive and understanding of it transforms you into a more logical and a more comprehensive and knowledgeable learner yourself. That is also the reason why, due to the transformative powers of debate, me and my friend Joanne brought debate into KG5 a few years ago, and now has been passed on to even more responsible leaders from year 11 to year 13. But understand this, debating pushes you farther from your comfort zone, farther from something that you're already comfortable with. I'm okay with this. I wake up and I do this every day. Perhaps I give a speech like every other week in my debate trainings. I wake up and I feel that this is within my comfort zone. I can do this, I can manage this. But perhaps debating sounds like it's something perhaps uncomfortable or something unfamiliar. Can I really do this? Have I been equipped with all the knowledge or all the logical coherency in order to prepare me for this activity? What I'm saying is that you don't have to be prepared when you enter something new, especially in debate, because statistically speaking, as explained earlier, how difficult debate is. In one round, there are 4 teams going against each other, and there's only going to be 1 team that wins. Statistically speaking, you're more likely to fail than the amount of times that you win. Debating forces you to go beyond the dualistic notion of winning and losing, and recognizing that, especially because you're more likely to lose anyway, is this journey that matters the most. It is the bigger picture of personal development, of the things that we learn along the way. It is the feedback that we take after every round instead of taking the results as the most important thing. Why am I second? Why am I first? Why am I fourth in this round? Why is this important? It's because we're preparing ourselves for the next round in the tournament, especially when after 1 hour of debating, 1 hour of preparation, 1 hour of speaking, after 7 minutes of speech. That's kind of it. You're forced to move on, and you're kind of forced to take into consideration of all these valuable feedback that you got from the interpretive nature and explanatory nature of debate. You have to understand the feedback. It's not just running a marathon where whoever runs faster wins and there's no explanation behind. Debating is all about explanation, including you as well as the judge's feedback. And taking feedback is always the most important part to continue with our personal development. Instead of jumping like Doodle, jumping around different types of logic, why don't we try to jump out of our comfort zone into something new and try something that is perhaps unfamiliar to us in the current status quo? So obviously, when I'm talking about stress as a medical student, as you probably already know, I can tell you all about the physiology. I can go on and on about it, telling you about the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. All that wordy phrase that I already explained, that I said is not even important, because how we actualize this, for example, every one of us is equipped with a biological system to deal with stress. Cortisol gets produced as a result, known as the stress hormone, to help us withstand stress, to help us build endurance to stress. It promotes things like gluconeogenesis, where we get additional forms of energy in order to fuel our brains into facing something new, something unfamiliar, something stressful. But how we actualize that mechanism is the most important part, because how we are fully able to utilize and realizing that we can actually take control of how we're seeing stress, how we're facing stress, and how we cope with stress is entirely up to our control. For you right now, it might seem that exams is the most important and most stressful thing that we have to face. And it seems like it's been forced onto us by our parents, by our friends, by the school, by the rest of society, perhaps. It's not something that we seem to be able to choose, but what we can actually choose for ourselves is how we see stress itself being put onto us, how we want to deal with it, how we want to manage it. And especially when we can't prevent stress from happening to us, when we can't choose what kind of stress we want to face in the near future, being able to take control of how we manage our stress is the most important thing if we want to ever move on into achieving something bigger, into achieving our dreams, into being better at a skill that we really want to improve on. Ultimately, being able to understand that stress is something that can be compartmentalized, just like how you compartmentalize in a debate setting, where you get randomly assigned for a role that you might not necessarily like, which is kind of like being in school drama, right? You get assigned into a role you might not necessarily like, and you have to defend that role for that period of time. How do we deal with it? We compartmentalize, we close all the other doors and focus on one thing. We want to do this one thing, and we want to do it well. How do we do it? We focus and we use stress instead of seeing it as an enemy, instead of seeing it as something negative, something we want to avoid. We embrace it instead of letting it take us overboard. We embrace it to the way that it's helpful for us, not only in terms of immediate performance, but also for long-term development. If we can't choose the stress, the pain, the suffering that we're facing in life, life would end up choosing it for us. Thank you.